Hello viewers, you're watching India Today Global with me Ishita Mitra, and this is the time where we get you the biggest story of the day. Today our story comes from Asia, where two countries, India and Pakistan, continue to remain embroiled in a major standoff. So let's walk you through the latest developments that we are getting in between India and Pakistan that have taken place since Operation Sindoor. Now, tensions have significantly escalated both on the military front and also on the diplomatic front, pushing the region closer to a dangerous brink. Now, Operation Sindoor, launched by India on May 7th, was a precise tri-service strike targeting terror camps and infrastructure in Pakistan along with Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. And this was in retaliation for the brutal Pahalgam terror attack that killed about 26 civilians, including one Nepali national as well. Now, following the strikes, the situation along the LOC deteriorated sharply, with heavy shelling and firing reported along the border. Now, Pakistani troops intensified ceasefire violations across multiple sectors, including Kupwara, Baramulla and Poonch, prompting strong Indian retaliatory fire in response. Now, the Indian Army remains on high alert across the border, maintaining a posture of measured yet firm response to any provocations from the other side. Now, if we talk about what are the details we're getting in from the ground, on the ground, the situation has become increasingly volatile in Pakistan. Lahore, Pakistan's second largest city, was rocked by a series of 3 explosions, and this was near the Walton Road area, close to the military airport and cantonment. You know that the holy nexus that exists between terrorists and Pakistan's army in the country, and therefore we've seen the activities that have been carried out by India in retaliation to the Pahalgam attack have also been very close to the areas where Pakistan's army is situated. Now, the blasts in Lahore caused widespread panic, with emergency sirens blaring and residents rushing out of their homes as thick smoke billowed into the sky. Now, Pakistan's authorities quickly cordoned off the area and suspended flight operations at Lahore, Karachi and Sialkot airports as a precaution. While there have been no confirmed casualties or major damage to civilian infrastructure due to these blasts, the blasts have heightened fears of further instability in the country. If we talk about what are the statements that have been coming in, officials have suggested that explosions may have been caused by a drone strike, possibly linked to the tensions that have been going on with the neighbor country. Now, the timing of these blasts just a day after India's Operation Sindoor has added to the tense atmosphere, that continues to exist between the two countries, and at the same time it has raised questions about the security situation inside Pakistan. Now, let's talk about what are developments we're seeing on the diplomatic front. Well, the crisis has deepened along that domain as well. India has intensified its efforts to isolate Pakistan internationally, briefing key global partners, and this includes the United States, Russia, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and this is all on the evidence linking Pakistan to cross-border terrorism. So basically, India is leaving no stone unturned in telling the world that how India's neighbor has been sponsoring terrorism on its soil for so many years now. Further, India's suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty and the Shimla Agreement was actually cancelled by Pakistan. Closure of the Atari-Wagah border, expulsion of Pakistan's diplomats and visa cancellations, they've all been met with reciprocal actions from Pakistan. What are the steps taken by Pakistan in this regard? Well, they've suspended trade, closure of airspace to Indian flights, and also expulsion of Indian diplomats. Now, if we look at all the developments that have taken place ever since the Pahalgam attack, the two countries have effectively cut off many diplomatic and economic channels that used to exist between the two neighbors. And this is when both the sides have also been accusing each other of aggression. Now, there was also a meeting that was held. If you talk about the global developments, United Nations Security Council convened an emergency closed consultation meeting. This was at the request of Islamabad, and this was to discuss the escalating conflict with its neighbor. And in this meeting, Pakistan was named and shamed. Even though UN urged maximum restraint from both the sides, Pakistan was questioned on its involvement in the attack, on how it's always linked to terror activities in, across the region and specifically in India. And also, it was asked to give its accountability in this regard. So global reactions, when we talk about coming from different countries, well, they have been varied. China has called for calm and dialogue, emphasizing the importance of regional stability in Asia. France and the UK have also urged restraint and they've asked for a peaceful resolution. Meanwhile, the US expressed concern but also acknowledged that India has a right to defend itself. On the other hand, there were countries like Israel and Japan who voiced support for India's position against terrorism. In fact, if we have to look at all the statements that have come in, I would say the statement coming in from Israel has been the strongest, because you've seen how Israel has also been, fighting against Hamas and has also been a victim of radical Islamic terrorism. And I think, therefore, the statement that came in from Israel was the strongest in this regard, and also was the one that did back India's actions against Pakistan. Now, meanwhile, the other countries such as Iran and Turkey, they've called for de-escalation, they've called for dialogue, warning that a full-scale war could be, very dangerous for the region. Now, if we talk about what are developments happening on the ground, the continuous shelling along the LOC has led to civilian casualties and also displacement in border areas with both sides, on both the sides, and with schools and villages affected by the crossfire. We've seen that for about 14 nights now, Pakistan has been violating ceasefire. And this, India has also been reacting, of course, in a measured way, in a proportionate way, and therefore the people along the border have been suffering, specifically people on the Indian side. Now, the Indian government has urged citizens to avoid travel to Pakistan and has also advised residents near the border to remain vigilant. Meanwhile, Pakistan's leadership has vowed to avenge the damage caused by Operation Sindoor. If you look at the statements coming in from Pakistan, how contradictory they are. On the one hand, they say there are no terror hubs in Pakistan. Pakistan has been a victim of terrorism itself. And on the other hand, when India goes out and actually hits these terror targets across Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, they say we are going to take revenge for that. So if there is no credibility left with the country itself, which is reflected in the kind of statements that are now being made. They warned of retaliation, including the possibility of targeting Indian military bases as well. This again talks a lot about how Pakistan's army is linked to the terror groups operating from the country, including Lashkar-e-Toiba and including Jaish-e-Mohammed. So in a nutshell, these are all the latest developments that we're getting in on the military front and also on the diplomatic front. So in summary, we can say that Operation Sindoor, since that took place, the India-Pakistan standoff has intensified dramatically, and the military exchanges that we're now witnessing along the LOC, the blast in Lahore that we witnessed today, and also the diplomatic fallout that we've seen, ever since these tensions started rising, they've all created a highly volatile environment in the region. And both nations, of course, remain entrenched in their positions, with India emphasizing that it has a right to respond to terrorism. And of course, this is rightly so as well. And Pakistan at the same time doing what it always does, just refusing to accept that how it has been sponsoring terrorism, refusing to take any responsibility for its actions, and at the same time denouncing what it calls India's aggression. Now, the international community is closely watching all of these developments. They are urging dialogue, they are urging restraint. We have seen a statement coming in from the US President as well, Donald Trump, who claimed that he has good relations with both the countries, India and Pakistan, and he'd like the tensions and the conflict that has been going on to end. But at the same time, India has to look for itself. India has to see what actions would suit its own interests, and also what actions could send a strong message and could be strong deterrents for what Pakistan has been doing for so long. And therefore, the coming days will be crucial in determining that whether cooler heads will prevail or if the region would further escalate. The tensions in the region would further escalate. So this is all what's happening on the diplomatic and military front with regards to the tensions rising between two neighbors in Asia, India and Pakistan, ever since Operation Sindoor took place, in which India took out terror hubs across Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. The border regions have become increasingly volatile, and we'll continue to bring you all the developments related to that on India Today Global. Thank you so much for watching this. Stay tuned to India Today Global, where we simplify geopolitics for you.